Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a little throwback fun video. Current NFL stars, most of them quarterbacks, their worst single game college performances. I did a little bit of research, guys, and this was actually inspired by Josh Allen at Wyoming. I remember thinking it's so crazy that Josh Allen actually panned out in the NFL. I never would have predicted it at all, considering how bad his completion percentage was. But we'll start with him at Wyoming. The worst game of his career, in my opinion. A Week 2 loss to Nebraska and Tommy Armstrong Jr. You can see 16 of 32. That's actually not too bad for Allen in college, 50%. But you're looking at 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions. If I remember correctly, I think Josh Allen might have went viral in this game for a hurdle on a run. But you take a look, he had 7 carries for 7 yards. I think he had that long run of 19. I believe he had a hurdle, and it's so crazy Josh Allen progressing so much to being, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's kind of why scouts are falling in love with Will Levis of Kentucky. He doesn't have great stats, but they see similar build, and it is crazy. So Josh Allen at Wyoming, he had several, horrible games in terms of completion percentage, but the 5 interceptions at Nebraska, that was his single worst performance, in my opinion. Next, we're going to look at Lamar Jackson, and he actually played in a Citrus Bowl. You guys can see his stats there. 10 of 27, did have 153 yards, but take a look at his rushing. 26 carries for 33 yards. That's because if you guys don't know, in college, they count sack yards against your rushing yards. But what just a disgusting game, 29-9. The Citrus Bowl is actually a really good bowl to get into. It's like right outside of the top bowls in college football. His overall QBR just 28. Not a good game at all for the Louisville offense. 153 passing yards, 67 rush yards, and again, 26 carries for 33 yards going up against a really talented LSU defense. That was a total mismatch, that game. I remember that game, it was a noon start, and it was sunny. I remember kind of cold it felt like, although I think the Citrus Bowl is in Florida. Maybe it's in Jacksonville, I don't know. Either way, guys, moving on to Patrick Mahomes, probably one of the more polarizing prospects in terms of the Texas Tech situation. Before Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech was known for quarterbacks getting a bunch of stats but not panning out in the NFL. And you can see Patrick Mahomes versus Baker Mayfield. Both of these dudes, I believe Mayfield might have been his second year starting at this point. They won, Oklahoma wins 63-27. I mean, Mayfield really didn't have that good of stats. It was really Samaje Perine, 200 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Mahomes goes 26 of 40 for just 233, 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions. Shout out to D.D. Westbrook. D.D. Westbrook was a beast. I remember when he was a Heisman finalist with Baker Mayfield, I think. But either way, that was Mahomes' worst performance. Mahomes had a bunch of crazy games where he would have like 60 pass attempts in that Cliff Kingsbury offense, I remember. And then he ends up, I think he got picked 10th overall by Kansas City. They traded up to get him. And the rest is history. There's Davis Webb as well. I think Davis Webb might have been a 4th-round pick of the New York Giants and started maybe 2 games in the NFL, if I'm remembering it correctly. Next, we've got a newer guy, Justin Fields, who has really taken the NFL by storm this year with the Chicago Bears and his rushing ability. If you guys don't know, Justin Fields really not much of a runner in college. It's kind of how Ryan Day designs his offense. They don't really run the quarterback, but his worst game by far, it was during the pandemic, the 2020 Big Ten championship game against Northwestern. You can see Ohio State just 6-0, but they're in the Big Ten championship due to all the cancellations. Justin Fields, This was a really weird one. Chris Olave, I think he was in the health and safety protocol or something. He didn't play. But Garrett Wilson played. I mean, they had other guys. He went 12 of 27 for 114 yards and 2 interceptions in a dome against Northwestern. And even more crazy, Trey Sherman, 331 rushing yards, but Ohio State only scored 22 points. So just an all-around really odd game. Ohio State ended up going to the playoffs, playing at Clemson in the Sugar Bowl, I believe, crushing Clemson and then getting trounced by Alabama in the national title that year. Really bad performance from Fields in that one. Next, we're going with Justin Herbert. A lot of people don't remember Justin Herbert. Everyone thought was going to be a bust when he got picked by the Chargers, I think 6th overall. You can see this is a bowl that's since been renamed, but this was the Redbox Bowl. Brian Lewerke dueling Justin Herbert, and his numbers are not horrible. The reason I had to include it, 7-6, the final score. He goes 19 of 33 for 166 and a touchdown with no interceptions, and he adds 4 carries for -7 yards because he got sacked a few times, I'm assuming. Really not a horrible game, but because it was 7-6, I'm going to add it. Overall, Justin Herbert, he really did kind of have an underwhelming college career, especially compared to Bo Nix. I mean, you would think in that offense he would be significantly better than Bo Nix as a college quarterback, but it just goes to show you, it just didn't work out for him for whatever reason. And he stayed at Oregon, I feel like, 1 extra year where he was kind of like a first-round pick, and then he went back to school and really didn't play any better. Next, we actually have a running back on the list. It is Saquon Barkley. I remember this game in specific. This was like Saquon's big Heisman statement type game. Penn State was 7-0 coming into it. Saquon Barkley ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. His numbers are crazy. 21 carries for 44 yards, and he had a long of 36 yards. So if you take away that 36-yard play, he had 20 carries for 8 yards. And this was a situation, Ohio State used to do this all the time under Urban Meyer. They would, if you have a superstar running back, they will just shut him down. They don't care about anything else. They care about shutting down the running back. And that's exactly what they did. They just swarmed Saquon Barkley. He had like 7 carries for losses at least. I remember he had 1 carry for it went for like a 9-yard loss. They were just in the backfield. They had, 9, 10, or they had 8, 9 guys in the box pretty much at all times, and they were going to make Trace McSorley beat them. The game overall was really weird. Penn State had 1 special teams touchdown. They had like 3 touchdowns off of turnovers. Ohio State, JT Barrett goes unconscious, has the best game of his career, and they come back and win 39-38 in that one. Next, we're going with Joe Burrow. What a weird career trajectory for Joe Burrow, man. I remember Joe Burrow at Ohio State, and guys, you wouldn't even, so Joe Burrow had his battle with Dwayne Haskins, but I'll be honest, it wasn't even a battle. Everyone knew Haskins was going to win the job. Joe Burrow was seen as kind of just like an afterthought, mid-level 4-star who really was never going to start at Ohio State, and they just took him because he's from around the area. That's what legitimately what Joe Burrow was. He transfers to LSU, and his first season at LSU, he had like 14 passing touchdowns and 13 starts. It was not good. But I will say, you look at this game, Nick Fitzgerald, brother. I mean, my God. 8 of 24 for 59 passing yards and 4 interceptions. I mean, holy crap. LSU won this game 19-3. Burrow goes 16 of 28, 129 and an interception. So not good numbers. That whole year, Joe Burrow was not good. And then everything just comes together. And I still haven't seen a quarterback as good as Joe Burrow was that 2019 season with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It was crazy. It was crazy. This next one, we're going back to a running back. So this was Leonard Fournette's quote-unquote Heisman moment, just like Saquon Barkley, and Nick Saban just shut him down. It was number 2 versus number 4. LSU came into this game 7-0, and Leonard Fournette, who was just a freak. People were giving Leonard Fournette the Heisman in week 4 of this year, I remember. And he had 19 carries for 31 yards. At least he had a touchdown. This was a dark age for LSU football when they just could not find a single quarterback who could throw. Their quarterback, Brendan Harris, 6 of 19. And then look at Alabama. Look at Derrick Henry's numbers. 38 carries for 210 yards and 3 touchdowns. Calvin Ridley as well. Shout out to Jake Coker. I don't think he even he might have made a practice squad. I don't know. Who remembers this game? Alabama-Washington. Jalen Hurts, one of his worst games. 7 of 14 for 57 yards. So I don't remember this at all. But look at Alabama's passing versus rushing. They had 50 rush attempts and 14 pass attempts. I understand they were leading basically the entire game, but I don't know how that happens. Especially this game happening in 2016, but Jalen Hurts was, at Alabama, Jalen Hurts was known, he was a 3-star, he was a game manager who was kind of like a decent college quarterback, and then they brought in Tua, and Tua obviously was the 5-star, he was better, but really, Jalen Hurts was not known at all as an NFL-type prospect until he was under Lincoln Riley and he did the graduate transfer or whatever and got the immediate eligibility at Oklahoma. That's why I consider Jalen Hurts. I know, he has a lot more stats at Alabama, but when you're talking about his affiliation, it's one of the great debates, Oklahoma or Alabama. I would say Oklahoma, because I think if he comes out of Alabama, he's like a 6th-round pick, honestly. He was not developed at all. Tua Tagovailoa. Tua had one of the, if you look at Tua's college stats, how this guy didn't win a Heisman, this was his only bad game that I could find, or had to have been one of the only bad games. It was the SEC championship game, and Jalen Hurts actually came in this game and led Alabama to victory. Tua was dealing with an injury. He goes 10 of 25 for, that's a horrible completion percentage. 164, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jake Fromm. I remember he was going to be the next Alex Smith, Jake Fromm. There's Swift as well, Jalen Waddle, Josh Jacobs, a lot of NFL talent there. But there's Jalen Hurts, who came in late in the second half, 7 of 9 for 82 yards and a touchdown and a QBR of 99.4. So he really saved the day for Alabama in that SEC championship game. Next, we've got another running back, Jonathan Taylor. This was the Chase Young Heisman game. If you guys remember, Chase Young had 4 sacks in this game, I believe. Oh, and then a week later against Penn State, he had 4 sacks again. But Jonathan Taylor just completely shut down. Ohio State annihilated Wisconsin in this game. 20 carries for 52 yards. Jonathan Taylor is another one who just had crazy stats. All 3 years, he started every year. He started as a true freshman, and he had at least 1,700 rushing yards every year. And then Trevor Lawrence, you want to talk about a weird game? They win 52-14, but Trevor Lawrence goes 13 of 23, 168, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Travis Etienne has 200 yards on 12 carries. And T. Higgins has a decent day, 4 for 98 and a touchdown. So that was Trevor Lawrence's worst college game that I could find. But either way, guys, those are just some NFL stars' worst game in their college career. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.